Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda, and please welcome to our Operation Freedom platform, WeThePeopleProcessing.com. You know, are you tired of being threatened to be canceled just because you have a company focused on liberty and freedom? Well, worry no more, folks. WeThePeopleProcessing.com is your go-to merchant services, freedom-based company to provide business service payment solutions. We the People Processing provides their clients a cancel culture-free platform which is domestically based. They provide competitive rates, no contracts with next-day funding, a fully vetted and like-minded financial infrastructure, and full support for integrations, implementation, and e-commerce efforts. Bottom line, WeThePeopleProcessing.com focuses on defending your company's free market growth, values, and future. Check them out at www.WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Once you're on the site, enter in password Operation Freedom or call 855-499-2024. That's WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Then, when on the website, enter Operation Freedom as your password or call 855-499-2024.
Mr. President-elect,
go ahead.
Can you say
Asking a
categorically,
question.
Mr. President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir.
I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Dave Vs The MSM. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. We are available 24/7 at davejanda.com. Extra shows, extra content, extra guests, extra analysis, archives to all of our shows. We have a public side, and we also have the subscription side. We hope you become part of our freedom family. You know, in this holiday season, we want to take time to reflect. Reflect on the entities that are making a positive difference in our lives, that are promoting freedom and liberty and the empowerment of the individual. And the other thing we want to do is we want to call out the entities that are trying to divide us. You see, as I've mentioned to you, since I started my radio show, Operation Freedom, over 11 years ago, the playbook of whatever you want to call it, the New World Order crowd, the globalist syndicate, the totalitarian thugs, the criminal international banking syndicate, their playbook is about dividing and conquering. The more they have us divided, the better they like it. The more power, the more control they have. That's what this entire and has been about. Dividing and conquering. Young versus old. One race versus another race. Men versus women. Versus And when we play into that playbook, and when we support organizations that are trying to divide us, then we're actually harming ourselves. We're harming our futures. We're harming our own freedoms and liberties. That's why it's our role, it's our duty, it's our obligation to call out organizations that are trying to divide us, even though they might have the veneer of bringing us together. Let me give you an example. The Salvation Army. This is an organization I have supported my entire life. I was exposed to the Salvation Army when I was a little boy by my dad. Every Christmas season, my dad would take me down to the city of Chicago. We'd park the car, and he would hand me money. And he and I would walk around the Loop in Chicago on the south side of the city, and then on Michigan Avenue on the north, so-called the Magnificent Mile. And every person ringing a bell for the Salvation Army, we would each take the money that he had provided and put it in those buckets. The Salvation Army provided a unity of giving help to those less fortunate. That's what I was brought up on. And my dad did that out of the goodness of his heart, and he instilled that in his son. On Operation Freedom, I've been speaking about inflation, supply chain issues, and voting with your hard-earned dollars and how to make a difference. Look, we all know over the past couple years how the globalist syndicate has done quite well. And while middle America, small and medium-sized American-made businesses have suffered while the big box stores have prospered. Many people believe, well, there's nothing you can do about it. I believe there is, folks. I believe there is. That's the good news. We need to vote with our dollars. That is how we make a difference. What if there was a better way to utilize our resources that we have earned to support small and medium-sized businesses rather than these big box stores or the globalist syndicate? Look, businesses that do not rely on cargo ships from far-off distant lands, that are American-based businesses, are the key. And that is where patriotswitch.com gives you and me the ability to help each other. Rather than continuing to give our money to the big box stores or the globalist syndicate, if you will. That's why patriotswitch.com was created, to help provide products from family-owned, American-made businesses and companies and provide it to folks like you and me. That's patriotswitch.com, patriotswitch.com. As I got older, a good friend of mine, an icon in the radio world, Dick Purton in Detroit, for many, 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 many years, held telethons and radiothons and provided millions of dollars to the bed and bread program that the Salvation Army has run to help those less fortunate. One of the benefits of the Salvation Army program has been that very little goes to administration, they say, they've reported, and it goes to people that are in need. And that's the organization that my family and I and my friends have supported generously over the years. When I was a young boy, very little, I was told, if you don't behave in your stocking Christmas time, you're going to get coal. Well, this year, at least in my mind, the Salvation Army, as opposed to getting my donations this year from me, they're getting coal. Why do I say that? It's a dramatic change, but we need to call them out. Earlier this year, Salvation Army put out a report, a guide. And frankly, it was all about division in our country, in our world. And the veneer has been peeled away of the Salvation Army, at least in my mind. But it needs to be said. This from Zero Hedge. Salvation Army unrings bell, no longer asking white people to deliver sincere apologies for their race. After significant donor backlash, the Salvation Army has withdrawn its, quote, "Let's talk about racism," end quote, guide, which asked white supporters to deliver sincere apologies for their race and sins of racism. The guide, previously released and created by the Salvation Army Social Justice Commission, reads, quote, "While many Salvationists have acted firmly and courageously against racism, the Salvation Army acknowledges with regret that Salvationists have sometimes shared in the sins of racism and conformed to economic, organizational, and social pressures that perpetuate racism, adding that Christians need to evaluate racist attitudes and practices." Quote, "And as we engage in conversations about race and racism, we must keep in mind that sincere repentance and apologies are necessary if we want to move towards racial reconciliation. We recognize that it is a profound challenge to sit on the hot seat and listen with an open heart to the hurt and anger of the wounded, yet we are all hardwired to desire justice and fairness, so the need to receive a sincere apology is necessary," end quote. The guide also says, quote, "White culture has challenges it needs to overcome, which include, quote, denial of racism and defensiveness about race. It adds that white Americans need to, quote, stop trying to be colorblind," end quote. I can tell you that my exposure to the Salvation Army, as I mentioned earlier, came at a very young age. Race never came into it. About those that were poor, about those that needed help. Black, white, yellow, red, magenta, pink, green. No. My dad taught me early on that underneath this small layer of skin, we're all the same. My mom reinforced that. The reason why my parents, why such radio icons as Dick Burton, supported the Salvation Army, because the Salvation Army, all of them supported, did not look at a person's race. The Salvation Army that all of us embraced people who were down, who needed support so they could get back on their feet and make a great life for themselves. That's not the Salvation Army that issues this guide. So what am I doing? I'm supporting other organizations this year. One of the things the Janda family has done is we personally, our families, support other families that are in need, that we're aware of. But there are many organizations that support families, children that are in need. This year, we cannot support, I cannot support, an organization such as the Salvation Army that essentially has declared itself as trying to divide our society. It's sad but true. In this time of year, we need to embrace each other, even though the Faucis don't want us to do that, right? They want us to keep that cover on, to hunker down, to be locked down, to not interact, to not help. Let government do that. Let Big Brother do that. Elon Musk, love him or hate him, said the following: explained government in a very short quip. Quote, government is simply the biggest corporation with the sole monopoly on violence and where you have no recourse. So how much more money do you want to give that entity? End quote. Well, I think we need to look at every entity, including government. How much of your hard-earned resources and of your time, even more importantly, your time to volunteer, do you want to give to entities that play into the globalist playbook of dividing and conquering? Me? Zero. None. Which is why I have pulled back my support of such entities as the Salvation Army. A number of the educational institutions that I attended have done the same. And I pulled my support from them because it's all about division, about playing with the globalists on their terms, on their team. And I'll have none of it. I think the sooner all of us do this and not look the other way, because it's easier just to look at, well, that was just a bad. No. If they're willing to put something like this out and only back off because they saw their donors back off, is not an organization you want to support. There are many organizations, locally and some nationally, that aren't in it to divide. They're in it to embrace. And isn't that what this holiday season should be all about? In spite of the Faucis also trying to divide us. Embrace those organizations that embrace freedom, liberty, that embrace every person, and are not in the divide and conquer camp. I wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. What the deep state fears is us embracing, because they want us divided. The less division amongst all of us, the sooner we end this reign of terror by the deep state. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big, dare to fail. Merry Christmas.